you want to test my microphone or you do it?
Yeah, if you don't mind, a second.
Okay, there's music. Is that what you want?
Yeah, it's like intro music.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if you wanted it that way. Yeah, Paul really wants to be here, but just, he's got so much going on already, and then he's got soccer with the kids, and he's like, okay, don't push yourself. Give yourself something else to commit to. That just causes stress, which is not good.
Well, that's why we're recording it like this.
Yeah.
All right, we are live.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to class number 3 of the overall wellness small group. My name is Joanne Gray, for those of you who haven't been with us before. And behind the computer and all the technology is Pastor Dan. And my husband Dave is here with us in person. And we're assuming we have a large online audience, both in real time and afterwards. Because we have a lot of exciting and important things to talk about today. In the first class, we talked about the total load concept of wellness, where everything we think and say and do and ingest and put on our skin, etc., etc., all affects our health in some way or other. And so we want to reduce our total load of stressors. There are many choices we have to reduce our total load. And we have one question that I want to emblazon in your minds to ask yourself whenever you feel overwhelmed or thinking, what should I do? Ask yourself, what one thing can I do right now to lighten my total load? It doesn't have to be a big thing, but there are many choices, and it goes according to an acronym that we've chosen to use, that we borrowed from the Seventh-day Adventists, called New START, which stands for Nutrition, Exercise, Water, Sunshine, Thoughts, and Trusting in God, Air, Rest, and Temperance. So before we get into our subject for today, which is exercise, we're in E of new, let's start with a prayer. Pastor Dan, would you like to open with a prayer?
Sure. Father, thank you for today. Thank you, Lord, that we can expand our minds and hopefully expand our lives by putting into practice what we're learning. So help us, and we ask for your guidance and motivation, wisdom, as we continue in life and try to become healthier. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
Not yet.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that, if someone wants to contribute that is able to, on Zoom, we can hear you. If you're on live stream, you can type into the chat, and Pastor Dan will see that and share that with us. Okay, but in the meantime, I'll just keep on going. There's homework that I'd ask you all to do, but before we do that, I want to give a big shout out. Dave rolls his eyes because he didn't do his homework. He's married to the teacher. I did remind you. A big shout out to Pastor Dan, who last week, part of the homework at the end was, how can I be supportive and help support others to develop and maintain healthier habits in the area of nutrition, which is what we were talking about last week. And his suggestion was, let's all make a goal, a smart goal of some kind to do with nutrition. And when we see each other on Sunday mornings, we can talk to each other about it and share it and ask questions and how you're doing with your goal. Well, I forgot about it. During the service, Pastor Dan described about the group and the acronym and how he very proudly went to the grocery store and bought fruit for the first time in however long.
Yeah. Well, for me, a long time.
Right.
But you can share that. I didn't go there with that thought, but your words stuck in my mind so that when I saw the fruit, I'm like, you know what? What would be the harm if I just went and looked and bought some?
That's right. You can't eat it if it's not in your house.
Yeah.
That's right. So And quick checkup before we started going online here, and he has eaten some of that fruit, most of it actually. And the payoff is, when your children see you doing something healthy for yourself, you don't have to say a word, you just have to do it, and they will learn it. In fact, reverse psychology often works really well with some children. My second son was that. If you told him not to do something, he'd want to do it. So I'd say, you can't have this grapefruit. I didn't think he would want it. It was so sour. Grapefruit. He was a little kid in a high chair. So, okay, I'll give him the grapefruit. And he would put it in his mouth and he'd go, and he wants some more. Fine. Anyway. So I think that's a great idea. And I would like to urge everyone and try to remind myself too that not only on Sundays and on Tuesdays when we're together for this class, but also we can include it in our Facebook Staying Connected group, sharing our goals, sharing our successes, sharing our failures, and asking for encouragement and giving encouragement about the subjects that we talk about in this group. I think will be very helpful to all of us, and even for those who are not part of the group, they will get to see the enthusiasm that I hope will be infectious all around. Okay, so thanks Dan for sharing that last Sunday, and maybe we'll be doing jumping jacks next Sunday during the sermon, I don't know. Let's begin with our subject of exercise. Okay, we're going to move on. Start off with our homework. We're going to take up part one of our homework, which was to find a Bible verse and or a famous quote to do with our subject of exercise. Does anybody have one prepared or that they can think of at the moment?
Paul affirms that exercise for the body is good.
Mm-hmm. I think you're thinking of 1 Timothy 4.
Yeah.
I have that one as well. It says, physical training or exercise is of some value. Now, some versions say of little value, which a lot of people take to say it's not worth it. No. Physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things. So, if it's a toss-up between spiritual or physical training, and you can't do both, do the spiritual. But you know what? Nowadays, you can listen to spiritual things. You can talk to someone about spiritual matters while you're exercising with the technology we have these days. So I like to bounce up and down on my little trampoline while I'm watching the computer screen, and I could have something spiritual on there as well, a video, a YouTube video about some spiritual matter, or listen to the Bible, or have worship music on. There's a lot of ways of combining it, more than we've ever had opportunity before. Another one I found was actually back in Genesis 2. Remember I said last time, the first 2 chapters of Genesis and the last 2 chapters of Revelation. Those are the 4 chapters of the Bible that describe the ideal that God had and has in mind for us. Because those are the 4 chapters in Genesis, the 2 chapters before sin enters the world, and in Revelation, those are the 2 chapters after sin has finally been dealt with completely. There's no more sin, no more death, only immortality. So those chapters are the ones to really look at to see what the ideal is. And in Genesis 2:15, it says, God took Adam, put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to take care of it. He didn't say he put him in the garden to sit there and watch it. He had to work it. He had to move. He had to exercise. Now, I'm sure it was a lot easier than taking care of my garden, where I've got to chase the squirrels out and put up netting so they don't dig up my plants in the middle of the night. I don't know. It'll be quite nice in the millennium when we may not have to deal with that. The squirrels will cooperate, maybe then. But there is work to do, and we need to move our bodies. We're not created to be still. We're supposed to eat vegetables, not be vegetables.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Here's another one. It's a quote that can be applied to many things, including exercise, which is use it or lose it. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. I had a physiotherapist once after one of my recent accidents who said she tells all her older clients every day, get down on the floor and get up again. Because if you don't practice it, then if you fall, you will at least be able to get back up. Because if you fall and you're alone and you're stuck there for 5 days, you're in big trouble. But if you can get up again, so practicing, exercising, doing anything that moves your body is helpful. It's good to do it in a safe way and in a wise way. We're going to talk about all those things today. But the point is, do it. Just do it. There's another one. Just do it. Okay. Even a little bit helps. Okay. So any questions or comments or tips we want to share about exercise? Anybody have any thoughts or good experiences or bad experiences with Dave? I know you have some. You have some good experiences with exercise.
Of course, but unfortunately my mind is not as fast as it used to be.
Can I share them with others? Okay. You can add, help me along. So Dave, at age 50, had some alarming medical news. Very high blood pressure was one of the main ones. And decided he was going to change his life. So he changed his diet and he started exercising. You went to the Y first, is that what you did?
Yes. No, that's not true.
No?
At the beginning, I went from where we were located to the big bridge going across.
Okay, so you kind of walked? Just walk.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that's, walking is one of the oldest and safest exercises there is. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So you want safety, walk where it's safe, of course, but walking is just, you can walk slowly, you can walk quickly, and walking quickly and briskly using your arms is good, but do it however you can. It's a good start. So Dave is now a speed walker 25 years later. He walks on the treadmill. How fast do you go nowadays?
4.3 miles an hour. Originally, I went at the age of 50, I went 5.6 miles an hour.
Yes, okay. See, he only goes 4.3 miles an hour now, which is faster than a lot of us can go. But he used to go 5.6 at his peak of physical fitness, I guess we could say. Yes. So we now have a treadmill at home because of COVID, but before that we went to the Y. And I have an elliptical and a rebounder. So it's good to have your own equipment if you can, or you don't need equipment if you're able to go out for a walk, depending on the climate. Now, where we live, you cannot go outside every day of the year, but you can have a backup plan of some type. We'll talk about that as well. Okay. I've got a lot of things I want to say here, but I think I'll maybe leave it for when we have our discussion. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Dan, about exercise? The tips or questions or experiences?
Like anything health related, I've had times where I'm on track and times where I'm very much off track, and it's just a matter of, like anything else, of consistency and just trying to, like, okay, even if you mess up a day or two, you just keep going.
Yeah, get back on the wagon.
Don't totally give up.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, don't give up. If you can't do it every single day, do it as much as you can and be thankful and just keep on trying. Don't stop. Don't give up because you haven't met your own expectations as high as you would have liked. Okay. So before we start with discussion, I want to just re-emphasize when we say things in this discussion, it would be helpful to know why we say what we say. So we want to base what we say on Bible, history, science, or experience. And a lot of what I've learned comes from books. And I can't remember which book it's from anymore, but one of the things I'm so thankful about with this overall wellness group is it's forced me to go back into my books that have to do with all these subjects. And I'm remembering things that I didn't realize I'd forgotten. So that's been great. And a lot of what I'm going to share with you are things that I've been reminded of by looking through these books. So exercise, why is it important? Any thoughts on that?
Long life.
Long life, yeah?
We weren't created / evolved to do nothing. Our bodies are like machines that need to be maintained, and that's how it gets maintenance.
Yes, yes. Yeah, if you buy a car and it just sits and doesn't drive anywhere, it's going to fall apart a lot faster. It's going to rust up, seize up. And that's exactly what a lot of people do, older people especially, have some aches and pains and we don't move around as much as we should. Exercise is work. Let's just say it out loud. We can make exercise as fun as possible. And when we're kids, we all exercise naturally. But as we get older and we have responsibilities and we have to squeeze our schedules, we have to make a point of exercise, especially now in this day and age when our lifestyles are often sitting behind a desk, looking at a computer. We can watch television, we can watch movies. We get in a car, we don't have to really walk anywhere if we don't want to. There's elevators, escalators, all kinds of things to keep us from having to go to work. We don't have to go to the well to draw water. We just turn on the tap. We don't have to go chop firewood. We just turn up the thermostat. Many, many labor-saving devices, which we're thankful for. But the downside of that is we don't get the exercise that so many generations before us for thousands of years have had to do. We have automatic washing machines. We don't have to scrub them on the scrub board. We have dryers. We don't have to hang them up in the line. All those things save us a lot of energy and exercise. So we need to now at this age be intentional about our exercise for the most part. There are some jobs that are full of exercise, and so my first husband worked in a meat packing plant, and he was always slugging meat here and there and doing lots of hard, heavy work. So he didn't really need to have exercise that way. And one time, I challenged him, I think it was. I used to do this 20-minute workout in the morning when the kids were little. And they just kind of sat on the couch and watched me, or they played while I did my 20-minute. It was a cardio workout. And my husband at the time, he was a smoker. And I said, I bet you couldn't do it because you smoke too much. And he goes, I bet I could. So he did it with me one day while smoking a cigarette. And he did it just fine. So smoking didn't help him, of course. But his job was the kind of job where he was busy and active all day long. So most of us don't have that anymore, except Sean. Sean has that more than he wants to, I think. Okay. Okay, so why is it important? Because if we don't exercise, we will lose the ability to move, and we need to move. What kind of exercise? Who knows the 3 different categories of exercise? Dan?
I could be wrong, but cardio?
Cardio's one.
What's the word for weightlifting?
Strength training.
Strength
Training. Mm-hmm.
What's a third one?
Flexibility.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's cardio or aerobic, which is basically heart and lungs. It does more than that, but that's what we basically, to strengthen our heart and lungs, which we depend on for life. There's strength training to build strength, which you can, use weights, or even walking is a weight-bearing exercise for our legs. And that's the one drawback to not being overweight, is you don't have enough extra weight to strengthen your leg bones. So you have to do extra stuff to do that. But for your arms, you can use weights or, just moving things around. And flexibility, bending and stretching. Being able to touch your toes, being able to sit on the floor and get up without having to hang on to something. Things like that are helpful for us to have a comfortable, easy to move body. Because when we're comfortable and we can move easily, we're not distracted by our body, and we can focus on what we're doing. We can focus on the people that we're with instead of being distracted by our own inabilities and aches and pains. So yes, just like in nutrition, there's protein, carbohydrates, and fats. With exercise, there's aerobics, there's strength training, and there's flexibility. So all three are important, but as Dave was saying to me earlier today, somebody, who was it that said that, says that the cardio aerobic exercise is the most important.
That would be Cooper. He was in the American Army.
A guy named Cooper,
Yeah.
from the US, from the USA. Well, when your heart is strong, the blood pumps through your body well. Your blood pressure is good, your pulse is good. And isn't that one of the first things that a doctor or your doctor's assistant will check when you go for a doctor's appointment, is your blood pressure? I want to make sure that's good. And as the Bible says, the life is in the blood. If your blood's not moving well, you're not getting the oxygen from your lungs into your blood, which gets into each cell of your body. And then you will feel those chronic fatigue symptoms. You can have aches and pains because things are not circulating. The good stuff's not getting in, and the toxic stuff is not coming out. Because when we're moving our bodies, especially in aerobic exercise, we're not only strengthening the heart and the lungs, we are moving our lymph system. I don't know if everyone knows, there's two circulatory systems. One is the blood. We have a heart, and it pumps the blood. It pumps it in our arteries, it goes all the way to our extremities, and then that blood returns. It brings the oxygen in to the cells, and it takes the carbon dioxide out through the veins. It goes back into the heart, which then connects with the lungs, gets rid of the CO2, brings in the oxygen, and does it all again. The lymphatic system is another circulatory system that kind of parallels the circulatory blood system, but there's no pump. It's what they call the body's vacuum cleaner. It takes all the other toxicities out of the body, out of the tissues, and gets rid of it through the lungs, through the kidneys, through the bowels, through the skin with sweating, all those things. So if we're not moving our toxins, which our bodies naturally make, it's not you're toxic because you've eaten or smoked, you've eaten something toxic, or you're smoking, or you're doing something, you're breathing in toxic air. Even if you have the best pristine environment and nutrition, our bodies create toxins because that's the end product of metabolism. And so we need to get rid of those toxins, and we need to move our bodies to do it because the lymph system pumps things through using motion. I don't know, how would I describe, what would be a good parallel to that? If you had a hose, a garden hose, that was not hooked up to a tap, but it had water in it, how would you get the water out? Wouldn't you have to shake it, and it would eventually come out the other end? We need to shake up our lymph systems to get things moving so it goes out the other end. That's probably maybe the best way to put it. And so moving for cardio is also a good way to move our lymph system, and it's really important to do that. Strength training. What's your favorite kind of strength training? I know, Dave, you've done weights.
Lifting my boys.
Lifting your children up. Yep, you can do that. Can do that now.
Biceps are the best part of my body.
Yeah. When your children are young, yes, picking up your children is a good thing to do. Well, we had a little dog, and I often thought, This is good because if my dog doesn't behave, I can just pick him up. If I got a big dog and he's not behaving, I wouldn't know what I could do. So yes, picking things up, moving them around. We used to go to the Y and they had strength machines, various ones. There was ones for your triceps. There was ones for your legs. I forget all. There's one for every muscle in your body. So I do kind of miss that at the Y, but I'm managing without. There's a lot of exercises we can do without machines. People will do yoga and things like that for flexibility, but some of those are also good exercises for strength because they use isometrics. Isometrics is where you tense your body even though you're not really needing to move anything. For example, here's one that I sometimes do for yoga. I pretend I'm holding something heavy. There's nothing there, but
It actually builds resistance.
yeah, you resist it, and you resist it from coming down. And I imagine it, like I don't want this big heavy thing falling on my head, and that is strength training, even though you don't have anything there. You can do push-ups is a strength trainer. You can do it on the floor. Since my accident, I haven't been able to do strength training push-ups on the floor, but I can do them against the wall, and I resist. I pretend, that I'm pushing the wall away, and I'm pulling it closer together. So there are lots of strength training exercises we can do that way. And flexibility. Yoga is one of them. Even just bending and stretching, twisting. This is a really old yoga book that I have. It's called The ABCs of Yoga. I don't know if you can see that online. It was printed in 1980. That's how old it is. So older than you, Dan. But it's got some good exercises in it. And what I like about it is in the back it says, it talks about something that this author coined, the term impulse yoga. She says, do whatever your body tells you it feels like doing. Now, that can be taken too far, but she means in the sense of when you feel like stretching, if you've been sitting at a computer for an hour and you just go, do it, stretch. Let your body tell you what it needs to do. Take a stretch break. She says, if you need to grunt or groan while you stretch, do that because it helps you to also stretch those muscles in your lungs and your throat that have been sitting motionless for all this time. If you need to yawn and it's you're not going to be impolite doing it, you can yawn, arching, bending, massaging, sneezing. Don't hold back a sneeze. Just turn away and do the sneeze. Your body's telling you it needs to do something. Do it. And also trigger yoga. She calls it trigger yoga, or we can tell ourselves, okay, every time I come to a red light, I'm going to do this resistance exercise against my steering wheel to strengthen my arms. And there are many things we can do, so we don't have to carve out necessarily a half an hour or an hour for exercising. We can have it go on all through the day. Speaking about that, though, when it comes to cardio, and I know you know more about this than I do, Dave, we used to be told that you need to do at least 30 minutes of uninterrupted, high-intensity cardio exercise at a time, at least 3 times a week, to strengthen your heart and your lungs. That has not been shown to be the case. Do you want to elaborate on that? You don't have to do 30 minutes at once.
Well, you could do it over a number of different intervals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you could do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 5, 5, 5. As long as you're doing something, and in fact, it's actually safer to not do 30 minutes high intensity. 30 minutes for a moderate walk is fine, but if you're pushing, and you are at your limit, you don't want to be at your limit for that long because it causes what's known as lactic acid. Lactic acid builds up when we push, and that acidifies our body, which is not good. And that's often why people, why do these athletes that push themselves sometimes die of a heart attack? You'd think they'd be the healthiest person on the block. Well, there's always many factors to do with heart attacks and such. But one of the, I don't know how recent it is, but it's more recent than I am, cardio exercise ways of doing things is called high intensity interval training, HIIT, H-I-I-T. And if you want to see a really good video on that, Google Barbara O'Neill, Muscle Knows No Age. I just finished watching it. She talks about exercise all through there, but she describes high intensity interval training where you spend 30 seconds, ideally 30 seconds, where you are pushing. You're walking up a hill, you're running, you're biking, you're rebounding, you're swimming as fast as you can, like you're running for your life, but only for 30 seconds. And you think, that's not very much. Well, you try doing that for 30 seconds. You'll be really glad when you're at the 30 and you go, oh, good. And then you stop. You don't completely stop. You have what's called recovery time for about 90 seconds. I kind of look at the clock when I'm doing this. And you don't stop completely. You keep moving. You might just stretch a bit, do this, slow down, just keep moving a bit. And that allows the lactic acid to dissipate and be turned back into what's called, I think, glycogen, which is another form of fuel that you burn. So you're burning fuel in your recovery time just as much as when you were in your high intensity, but it's a safer way to do it. And if you do that 6 or 7 times in a row, 30 seconds high intensity, 90 seconds recovery, 6 or 7 cycles, it takes about 15 minutes a day. And it releases what she says. Now, I know I'm saying we need to have basing our discussion on science. And this woman, if you look up Barbara O'Neill, she will tell you the science, and I can't repeat it all because can't remember it all, where it comes from. But there are books written about it and research done on it that it releases the human growth hormone, which is what we all have when we were young and we were growing. But when we reached our full age, our full stature, it stops. But it comes back into play when we are in a high-stress situation, like we're running for our lives, or we're having a hot shower and we suddenly turn it cold, or if we're fasting. Kind of like life-threatening things, our bodies think we're in danger, we get this human growth hormone, which does so many good things for our body. And we can do that with high-intensity interval training, which keeps us young-looking. I'm hoping to keep doing that. And this woman, when you see her on video, you can tell that she's been doing it for a long time because she's older than I am, and she looks like a teenager. So, to me, watching someone speak about what they do and how it works, and you can see the results in that person physically and mentally and emotionally, that makes me want to look into it further. And so this is why I'm sharing it with you, because I think it's really interesting, and I hope that you can look into it for yourselves, because it's a great thing. 15 minutes a day, and you've got your cardio done, and the human growth hormone that you've caused to be released continues for 24 hours. So if you do it once a day, you've got it. It's amazing. And your metabolism is at a higher rate, so you can eat more food and not gain so much weight or lose weight, however you want to do it. So that's another thought I just wanted to share about cardio exercises. Very good that way. Okay, so what kind of exercise? When should we exercise? Any ideas?
Early in the morning is the best.
Early in the morning is the best. Why do you say early in the morning is the best?
Get it over with.
Get it over with, yep. Psychologically, get it done. Anything? Yeah, there's more reasons, but that is one reason. Okay. Another reason, and this is also something I learned when you listen to this video, Muscle Knows No Age, she talks about the high intensity interval training, that if you do that in the morning before breakfast, in other words, you haven't eaten all night, ideally you haven't eaten all evening before you go to sleep either, so you've got a good 8, 10, 12 hours of fasting basically. If you do that exercise in the morning, it forces your body to use fat. And if you want to lose fat, that's the time to do it. If you can't do it in the morning, do eat a good breakfast, do eat a good lunch, but don't exercise on a full stomach. Digestion is hard work for your body. And so when it's busy digesting, the first hour and a half to 2 hours after a good meal, you don't want to be exercising then. So if your meals are a good 4 to 5 hours apart, that still gives you 2 to 3 hour window to get your workout done. So your stomach is not trying to digest while you're also putting extra pressure on it with your exercise. Did you want to say something? It looked like you were, no? Okay. So yeah, early in the morning, not on a full stomach. How about any time you can? Let's not get fussy. If there's no other time for you to do it, but right after you've eaten, don't push yourself, but do go for a nice walk around the block. Do something, but don't push yourself quite as hard. Any kind of exercise you can do at any time of the day is good. And that's why I wanted to mention the trigger yoga, or force yourself. If you've got to go to the mall, don't park as close to the store that you want to go to as you possibly can. Take 10 minutes to find a parking spot. Park far away and walk to the store. If you're able to do something like that. If you can take the stairs instead of an elevator or an escalator, do that. Any other ideas? Things that we can just incorporate into our day in a small way that adds exercise to our lives. Oh, yeah.
For a while there, and I really don't know why I don't get back on track with that, I was literally just, because a lot of my job is, listening to books. I like to listen to books. I like to listen to, things to expand my knowledge. Well, while I was doing that, I would just literally walk to the stage and back.
Oh, yeah.
For half hour to an hour at a time, and I would get 4,000 or 5,000 steps in a day.
Very good, yeah.
As a base,
Yeah, just walk around while you're doing something instead of sitting while you're doing something. Yeah, actually that reminds me of a lady I know. She was a mother of 2 young children, and it was wintertime, and she needed to go out and get exercise, and so she lived in a 2-story townhouse, so she just went up and down the stairs. Boring, but it was good exercise. She would actually run up and down the stairs. Whenever the kids were busy with something else, that's what she would do. She didn't, and even if you have, we have a bungalow with a full basement, and the laundry stuff is downstairs. We have a number of things downstairs. So I used to try to always, and I do still, economize my up and down of the stairs. I'll make sure I'm going to go up and down the stairs. I'm going to bring 2 or 3 things down and bring 2 or 3 things up. Have a couple of purposes at the same time. Now it's like, you know what? I'll just go up and down more often. We've got railings. We're older folks, so we have railings. We got lots of railings, so we use the railings. And I have one hand, and I know Dave keeps looking at me like, sometimes she goes without holding the railing. I know my hands are full, and I shouldn't do that.
I always recommend holding the railing.
Yes.
Ever since one day when Tim was young and we fell down, it wasn't that bad, but ever since then, I'm just I'm always gonna hold the railing when I go downstairs because I never want to fall.
No, it's no fun falling down. Yeah, you break your neck, and that's not fun. Because if you injure yourself, exercise is a lot more difficult. Yes. So don't be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to walk around the bed 3 times to make the bed. It's okay. Hey, you don't have to pay to go to a Y to the gym if you get enough exercise in your day just doing regular things. Some people like a Fitbit.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like, an iPhone keeps track of your steps automatically. So as long as you always have it on you.
Oh, is that right?
Automatically
So an
does that.
iPhone is a Fitbit in a sense, if you have it in your pocket kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a
s-
Fitbit is specifically for that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and some people, they might not want to do that because when you have a gadget like that on you, the electromagnetic frequency is not good for you in other ways. So there's pros and cons, but whatever inspires and motivates you to get you going, that's what you need to do. Okay, perfect. So when early morning, not on a full stomach, or anytime you can, and certainly not full out high intensity for 30 minutes at a time, because that's used to be the norm, but it's been discovered that that's really not the safest way. Okay, where should we exercise?
I think we just said it. It could be anywhere.
Yeah, kind of a trick question. There's no particular place. Let's just say it needs to be someplace easily accessible. If you're going to have a specific type of exercise that you want to do every day. For instance, we went to the YMCA for quite a few years, which is around the corner from our house. People would come to that place who lived way across town or even in another city, and they would make a point of coming, which amazed me because I don't know if I'd be willing to do that. And since COVID, we now have machines right in our house, so that's even more convenient. If you have a home with a garden, gardening is great exercise. I've found that. I'm doing a lot of that lately. It's not a replacement for cardio, I would say, but it is a replacement for flexibility exercises for sure. In fact, it's good to do a little stretching before you go out to the garden so you don't pull a muscle, as I can attest to. So really any place that works for you. And how? Well, I think we've already covered the how of exercising. Let me see if I can find some more things from my notes that I put here. Okay, there's something that you're going to hear about if you watch that video. What are the best exercises? It used to be said that walking was the best because it's the safest and you don't need any equipment except some good shoes. Walking briskly, especially where you're really using your arms. What do they call that? Power walking, where people are really going. It looks like it would hurt. You can do that. Swimming is a great exercise because the buoyancy of the water holds you up so you don't have the high impact that, like running, for instance, running or jogging on cement. That's good exercise, but it's really jarring on the joints, your knees and your ankles and your hips and your back. Another thing I learned from that video was that a runner who was I don't know if he was a professional runner, was having trouble with these joints because of running, and he discovered that you can get barefoot runners, people who run on bare feet. They run and they hit the ground with their toe, whereas people with good running shoes, we hit with our heel. Well, when you hit with your heel, it jars everything. When you hit with your toe, the spreading of your toes and the cushion of the sole of your feet absorbs a lot of that. And she said, watch children. When they run on their toes and soles of their feet. Now, I haven't watched any little kids running, but you probably can do that as soon as you go home and see how they run. That's the natural way of running. So you can now get special running shoes that they're shoes, so you don't have to go running barefoot, but they're very thin-soled, and you can fold them like this, basically the toe to the heel. And they're called barefoot runners, maybe, something like that. They're special for people who want to run and not jar their joints. So you can run, ideally run on grass or don't run on pavement, basically, because that's hard to do. But run on grass, run on ground, as opposed to hard surfaces. So there's another how for exercising. So walking briskly, swimming, bicycling is another really good exercise because once again, you're not jarring your joints. You're on your bicycle, but you've got the pedals, you're not hitting the ground. That's why I like the elliptical rather than the treadmill, because with the treadmill, I feel the jarring. Even maybe if I got barefoot runners, I might be better at the treadmill. But the elliptical, it kind of just, it's like going up the stairs, and it feels better for me. That's why I like that one better.
If anybody's curious, just when I search for barefoot running shoes, you can find a pair on Amazon for $24.
$24 on Amazon. There you
If you're
go.
looking to have a better running experience.
Yes,
Or walking experience,
yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, yeah. And the price of running shoes can be quite crazy because usually it's the thickness of the sole, right? So that when you run and you hit your heel, it doesn't jar you so much. But if you just run the right way that God created us for, of course, you can't run on rocky areas because you don't have as much protection, of course, right? So it depends why you're running. What was the other thing? Oh, yes. You're going to hear a lot about rebounding. Rebounding is the best exercise from what I have heard. Barbara O'Neill talking about it, but I've seen on other online websites and things. Rebounding is like a little trampoline. It's what? The one I have at home might be about 5 feet across, 5 feet around, about a foot off the ground. I just bought a cheap one at Canadian Tire years ago. It's got springs and they squeak. But you can get better ones, which maybe someday I will, where they don't have springs, they have rubber bands that allow you, and you just jump on it. You don't even have to jump, you can just sort of bounce and not even move your feet. There are many things you can do on it, but the point of it is we build strength and we exercise when we defy gravity. So when we go down on the rebounder, we are pushing against, and then we push up, we're defying gravity. We're accelerating, and then when we get to the top, for a very split moment, we're weightless, and then we go down, we accelerate again, and we hit the bottom, and we go back up, and it affects every single cell in our bodies. It moves the lymph around, and it's not hard, and it's actually fun. Another good thing about exercise, if you can make it fun, if you make it something that you look forward to, because you're listening to an interesting audiobook and you walk around like, I get to listen to this because I'm going to exercise. I'm going to exercise and listen to that instead of I'm going to listen to that. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'll exercise too. Make it the exercise first and say, I get to do this fun thing that I really want to do while I'm exercising. When I was at the Y and I used to be on the elliptical there, and there was lots of noise and people talking, and I wanted to do this for half an hour, and I thought, this seems to take forever. So I got a large print book from the library. I think I read all the large print books that the library had, large print Bible too, and I would read. And people say, how can you do that? I said, it's not that hard once you get the hang of it. So I get to read this book, and the only time I read that book is when I'm exercising. It's like it goes together for me. So whatever you can do to psychologically make it motivating I want to exercise because this is good for me in more than one way. All right, one more thing. Yeah, sweating. Who says sweating is bad? What is sweating? What is your body doing when it's sweating?
Probably not great understanding is it's releasing certain toxins. Is that the right way to think of it? Or,
Yep. Your skin is your largest detoxing organ. Of course, your other ones are your lungs, your kidneys, your bowel, things like that. But your skin, with all of its pores, yes, when you're sweating, your body is cooling itself off. But it's also as it does that, detoxes. A lot of toxic things come out from your metabolism as well. Not because, we're all toxic from doing toxic things to ourselves. And that's why sweat stinks. That's all I can say. So don't be afraid to sweat and then take a shower afterwards. That's all there is to it. We live in air-conditioned places. We don't exercise a lot, so a lot of us don't sweat very much anymore. And that's not good. My father, when he was in his older, I guess in his older years, in his 70s and so, he got my mother an air conditioner for a birthday or something because the heat was bothering her. And I think he loved the air conditioner more than her, the window, and he would sit right in front of it. And he'd said many times, if this thing stops working, I'm going to go and get another one right away because I got to have this thing. And he got to the point where he couldn't stand being out in the warm weather anymore because he was so used to being cool. He was trapped in his apartment in the summertime. Like he could just barely get out of there and get into his air-conditioned van to go someplace so he could go into an air-conditioned house. I don't want that to happen to me. I want to be able to have the freedom to handle the temperature, and if we sweat on a regular basis, that system is working. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. Plus, it detoxes us, and we can call it perspiration. It's a little bit nicer. Antiperspirants are chemicals. Did you know that? Yeah. Let yourself sweat and just wash yourself a bit more. Save on the chemicals, and it detoxes your body. So sweating is a good thing to do when we exercise, and even if we're not. If we're sweating, it means our body's trying to tell us something. It needs to detox. It needs to cool off. Let it do what it needs to do. Okay. Oh, another thing about how. What's our time frame?
It is 2:21.
Okay, good. We still have a bit more to go. Another thing about how to exercise is I'm going to suggest some people like to exercise by themselves, but to help motivate exercising, especially when we're starting to get into a new habit, is to find a buddy or an exercise group, a running group. Some people who run like to have a group that they run with. When I was in the university, the 1 year I went there, I was away from home for the first time. I wasn't a very mature person. I was only 18 years old. And I made some friends at the Christian group. And another person there and I decided we were going to meet every day at a certain street corner, and we were going to jog, a certain block, big block together. And then we would just all go home, and then that would be it. And there were so many times, especially when in the winter time was coming, I just didn't feel like going, but I have to go because that person's going to be there. And this was before we had cell phones and we could say, hey, I don't think I'm going to go at the last minute. I said, I'm going to go because I know that person's waiting for me. And that person said the same thing. So having an accountability person saying, okay, let's do this together. I'm counting on you to do it with me. And let's agree when we're going to do it. Unless some life-threatening thing comes up, then have to cancel. But it's got to be really life-threatening. And so doing it with someone to help you actually do it is also a way of doing it. Okay. So, action plan. When it comes to exercising, we can always ask ourselves, what is the one thing I can do right now to lighten my total load in the area of exercise?
To lighten your load?
Well, if we don't exercise, our total load gets heavier, I guess we could say. So, what can I do to do a little bit of exercise right now? Maybe just some stretches. Walking, just plain walking. You go walking around the room, walking up and down the stairs. Our total load is the overall concept that we're talking about in this whole series of nutrition, exercise, water. So when we ask ourselves that question, it could have any answer that will be one of those factors. But when it comes to exercise, we probably could always stretch. There's not very many situations where we can't do that. I suppose if you're up on a stage and you, whatever you're doing, you have to follow the protocol, you can't really do that. But most of the time, there are things. Isometrics is an exercise you can do and nobody knows you're doing it. One of the ways to relax yourself and exercise at the same time is to tighten up your toes for 5 seconds and then let them go. Tighten up your ankles, 5 seconds, let them go. And move yourself up through your body. And you're exercising, but nobody even knows you're doing it. And it relaxes you at the same time. It's quite an amazing thing. Isometrics is also something you can do if you've been injured and you can't use a part of your body. You can still often tense it and release it. So you can always ask yourself, what one thing can I do? You can do isometric stretching, even just making a plan. You can say, okay, I am going to look into what it costs to buy myself a rebounder, because if I have a rebounder in my house, we can all use it. It's one of those exercises that kids love to do, adults can all easily do. And even if you're a person, an older person, and your balance might not be good, you can put a chair there, or you can get the ones with a little bar, and you can hang on to it, and you can just do that for a while until you get your balance. It's good for balance. Varicose veins, when you do the jumping, it pumps that lymphatic system, it pumps your blood back up through the veins. And those varicose veins, and that people have swelling of their ankles and their feet because of diabetes and things like that. That's all they can do, but they do that for 1 or 2 minutes, 3-4 times a day. It's amazing how much they will progress in a short time because they're pumping their fluids through their body. And it gets your breath going as well, surprisingly more than you'd think. So that's a great thing. I think Barbara O'Neill says everybody should have a rebounder in their house, no matter what. So I agree with that. I'm just glad I happened to have one when I learned about this, because I had to blow the dust off of it, and I've got back on it now. Okay, so another thing we can do is make a short or a long-term SMART goal, a goal that is specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bounded when it comes to exercise. This is one thing that I did when I was in university. I decided I'm going to go jogging with this person, and we're going to go at this time. I think it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon every other day. We were going to go jog this certain route, no matter what, rain or shine. So measurable was the distance. It was an action-oriented thing, and it was realistic. It wasn't something that was, ridiculously hard to do. It was just a matter of motivating ourselves to actually do it. And it was time-bounded. It was starting at 5, we would be done by 5:30, and we'd be on our way home. It was done. So that's an example of a SMART goal. What might be another exercise SMART goal that someone could make, possibly? Remember, there's more than one type of exercise. There's also strength training and flexibility. So another SMART goal would be, I'm going to watch a video on stretching exercises and follow along the best I can. That's how I did my exercise when my kids were small. It used to be on television, and it was on at 7:30 every day in the morning. And so it's like, I got to be up before 7:30 so I can do my exercises. Now, of course, you can have videos anytime you want. So things like that. And strength training. There's something, they say just get 2 cans of soup and walk around with them. When you're going for your cardio walk, just carry cans of soup with you. On the rebounder, another thing that you can do is you're strengthening your legs, obviously, when you're doing that. And you're strengthening your heart. It's moving your lymph. But you're not doing much for your upper body on that. But if you hold your arms stiff like this while you're jumping, hands down, like palms down, it strengthens your biceps, I think, and you do it this way and it strengthens your triceps, and you can do that. Lots of other, there's a million things you can do on the rebounder. I haven't even touched the surface of those. Okay, so a SMART goal, and how can we support each other when it comes to exercise?
I think it's just sharing with one another that it's not impossible, and it's a matter of the will, and
Yeah.
doing something rather than nothing.
Yeah, yeah. It's not impossible. It's a matter of the will. Do something. Or as Dave often says, have you done your workout yet today, dear? Like,
Yeah.
no, I haven't. Yeah, okay, thanks for the reminder. Or, well, sometimes if I'm very busy, and that's not an excuse, but it is what happens, I say, okay, I can't do everything. So ideally, I do my cardio, which is now the high intensity interval training, which is only 15 minutes. So I really have no excuse. I try to do that in the morning before breakfast. And then I also try to do my stretching every day. But if I can't do both, I'll do one day, but I'll make sure I do at least the other one the next day or both the next day. I don't want to miss the same thing 2 days in a row. Sometimes that's the best I can do. But at least that way I don't feel like, okay, it's been a whole week and I haven't done anything. I've done something. So that's another one. And yeah, just asking each other how it's going. Are you or saying, hey, you want to go for a walk with me, kind of thing, or I challenge you to, like, guys, you guys are way more competitive than girls. You challenge each other to something or other. What's the speed walking competition that you said? There's a speed walking competition, isn't there, Dave?
There's lots of them.
Yeah, there's lots of speed walking competitions. So walking is a lot safer than, marathon running, let's say, or triathlons, things like that. But training for something like a speed walking 5K or whatever, even if you're just doing it to raise money for charity, say, I want to get that done in, 15 minutes and 30 seconds. And you just give yourself a goal and do it with a friend. I even understand there's an app called From the Couch to 5K. It's like someone who's a couch potato, how to prepare for a 5K run or walk. Like, there's apps for everything nowadays, so you can have your technology be your motivator. I know someone I know who lives alone has a Fitbit, and the Fitbit is her friend. It tells her when it's time to move, and when she's done really well, it gives her, applause and fireworks and says, "You've done a great job," and it just really motivates her. So
That's the good side of AI.
yeah, yes, it's the good side of AI, right? So
Something random that came to mind. I really enjoyed growing up that there was a church softball team. I
Okay.
think how awesome would it be if we could start a new softball league for all the churches and we play against each other and something like that.
I wonder if there is something like that.
Maybe there is. Yeah, I should look into it.
Could look into that, yeah. Okay, we didn't touch on sports.
Yeah.
Sports is another good thing. There are sports that are not as good for they're all good for the exercise, but when it comes to the acid-alkaline balance, which I mentioned last week, that comes into play with everything, with all the NEWSTART stuff. Everything has an acid or alkaline effect on us, our nutrition, and so does our exercise. So if we are pushing ourselves past our limits for too long, it becomes acidifying. I already mentioned that. But exercise that is a moderate or high intensity interval training, it's actually alkalinizing, so it's good. But so sports like swimming or, I've got it written down here, I think. Oh, where did I write it down? I forget. Sports like skydiving and what would be some other high injury possible sports? Skiing, downhill skiing, yes, tobogganing. I got a scar to show for that. Sports where injuries can be high. even though you have good exercise, the stress of having to protect yourself actually acidifies your body. So it's not as good. It's good for the exercise, but not for your overall wellness. But, just random swimming of laps, doing treadmill, any other kind of thing. But sports like baseball, what would be another simple sport that people enjoy doing? Pickleball. I think a lot of people love pickleball. I've never played it. Badminton, tennis maybe, things like that. Golf, yeah, it depends on how competitive you are. If you're really competitive, it's going to stress you out too much. You don't want it to be a stressor, but you want it to be enjoyable and yet exercise. So yeah, there are a lot of sports. If you find a sport that you love to do, I mean, I would love to be a figure skater, but I'm scared to death of killing myself. So I hope to be immortal in the kingdom, and that's when I'll take up figure skating. I think I'm not doing it right now. But there are many sports that people love to do. Horseback riding, some people love horseback riding. Yeah, that's a great idea. Hey, wouldn't that be something if we had that would be a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both for people to participate and to watch.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Let's think of it.
can you look into that for us?
Yeah.
Okay, you've got all the connections to all the other churches, to all the pastors group maybe. Is there a softball thing going on here? Okay, very good. All right, well, I think that's really all I have to share. And too bad we didn't have any other in-person live people today. But hopefully there'll be people viewing this online afterwards, and I hope that they find benefit from that and have questions and comments and join in maybe a Facebook conversation about it later on.
In fact, let me just reemphasize that if people watch live, they can join us on Zoom. They can also put comments or questions in the chat on YouTube. And after the fact, people have, like Anna said for last week, very good class. And Linda commented a few times saying, great class, love some suggestions. And I thought she had told me all the ones she had. So she learned more.
Okay. Well, I've been opening my books again.
Yeah. And she said something about grain is not the same today as it used to be. I think we were talking about that for a while.
That's true.
And there are no carbs in meat. So that's the difference.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've had 9 people watching today
Oh, on
YouTube.
okay. Okay, that's good. Excellent. Well, we're glad to hear that. Very good. Okay, well, I think that's enough for today. I think we've got our 2:30 time nailed down there. Next week, we're going to be talking about water. And as always, I always think, be prepared for 2 topics in case we run out of something to say. So the next subject after that will be sunshine. So do your homework for water and sunshine. Think of Bible verses or famous quotes about water and sunshine, and questions, comments, or tips, and how we can support each other. I think the last question will be, the answer will be basically the same, is to talk to each other and encourage each other along. But there's definitely lots of new possibilities with technology, with different ways of connecting with each other, that we can do that. So, okay, how about I close with a prayer, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity to have this session to talk about living out your purpose through our bodily exercise. We know that our physical and mental and spiritual and emotional health is all tied together. And so when we exercise, it helps us to de-stress. It helps us to feel better physically and mentally. It gives us time to think about you and to thank you for these bodies which have fearfully and wonderfully been made by you and given to us for this life. Help us to take good care of it, to make use of it in a way that is pleasing to you, with wisdom, and put into practice a power of example that teaches our young people to use their bodies even when they become adults and they're no longer children. They don't jump around and play as much as they used to realize it's still important to play and be active in our middle age and older years. We want to praise you and thank you for everything, no matter how our bodies are feeling today, and we want to improve in however way we can to your glory. We pray these things all in your Son's name, our Lord Jesus Christ, who also exercised very much. Amen. I forgot to mention that. Yes, Jesus exercised, and it's not mentioned specifically, but everybody in his day and age, and for many generations after and thousands of years before, they walked everywhere. They carried things. They were busy exercising all the time. So, okay, very good. Thank you.